Yeah, man, I'm all over the place. And okay. And we talked about it again last week.
Mm-hmm.
And I said last week that I was on tiptoe anticipation to hear what the Dr. Ed Young had to say about critical race theory.
Mm-hmm.
And let me say this, and I'm gonna let you give your whole thing.
I yield the floor, sir.
No.
Oh, I yield the floor because I want to hear. Hear ye, Pastor Moten.
So, hear ye
him.
The only thing that I hate more than a whole lie is a half truth.
Yeah.
Because it's
the skin of truth.
It's true enough to be misleading, or true enough to be believable, but lie enough to be misleading.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So, not to mention that Ed Young is doing what we, and again, so let me qualify.
Okay.
So, and again, I'm all over the place. So, and I have respect for the man of God. I'm not, so please don't, whatever. And I said last week, I'm trying to cut him as much slack as I possibly can.
Yeah.
Because he's done some good things, whatever.
Agreed.
And I mark a lot of it to him just being old.
That's where we differ.
He's aligned, and I get that, and a lot of it comes from his alignment, but I think a lot of it comes from his age. So, I mean, this is a man over 80 who was born in Mississippi, went to college in Alabama, and pastors in Texas. Formerly pastored in South Carolina.
Son of the South.
Like, whether he admits it or not, he has racism beating at the heart of who he is. Like, so, I mean, whether or not I credit it to him being old because since he's been in Texas, I believe he's been racist.
Oh,
like, or racist-ish.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying?
Blackish, racist-ish.
But he's been quiet too.
Right. Because I don't remember hearing controversy from Ed Young winning walk, any of this type of stuff.
Any of that.
But
over the course of the last 10 years, it's been, here quiet for 4 or 5 years, then here. So with this last little outburst, first, if you feel like something is going wrong in your city, you're Ed Young, help. And you're not going to help. You're going to run down the leadership of the city. Why? What good is that going to do?
Right.
So you do that. Then you couple that back. You backdoor your next message in this series. You're fighting at this woke generation. And again, you're hot. There are extremists in everything.
Everything.
You have extreme right. You have extreme left. You have extreme clubbers. We know folk who go out, but they're not extreme. Then we know folk who shut the club down. There are extremists to everything. So don't go at a whole generation talking about the wokest. You're pointing out the extreme side.
Right. You're trying to pick up on the AOCs and the Bernies of the world that are super
extreme instead of,
but you won't talk about the extreme on the other side.
Because he's a part of that extreme.
Well, and that's why I said, we titled this segment, according to there's an article that was written, the gospel according to the GOP.
And that's what it is. So, okay, his message Sunday, him talking about critical race theory. So it was a big plate of lie sprinkled with truth, right? So here's my frustration. He does not have the credibility to say certain things that he wanted to say.
Correct. And he tried to borrow the credibility.
He did.
Of Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr.
So he used
so hard.
He used and here's my frustration. So okay. So and again, and I never do this. I watched that thing 2 times. Shawn, I watched it twice.
Double for the trouble.
And was
y'all can't see it on the camera, but I want you to know that Moten's showing me hand written notes.
Notes.
He's done his homework, literally.
So the first thing that he did that frustrated...
This is impressive.
No. The first thing he did, so he doesn't have the credibility. So the first black signature he tried to use...
Well, Ben Carson.
Was Ben Carson.
Correct.
Bro, Ben Carson is not... Look, Ben Carson is not a good sounding board for CRT.
Right.
Period.
Right.
So
gifted hands or not.
No, bro, no matter what knowledge
right.
Ben Carson has, right. And I won't argue that he has knowledge.
Correct.
About he's bought by the extreme right system. So Ben Carson it starts to talk about his book, and I've read excerpts from that book, and I refuse to purchase it because I don't want now a penny of my dollar to go toward nothing that got Ben Carson that's going to enrich Ben Carson in any way, shape, or form. Mm-hmm. But he starts to talk about this book, and so the name of his book, if you just wanted to know, is he has a book called Created Equal, and the premise of his book is that we are all created equal in the eyes of God.
Nobody disagrees. No, that's not bro. that doesn't even begin to address the C or the R or the T.
Bro.
Okay, great.
Who argues that?
Who argues that?
The argument of this society is not whether or not we are created equal.
Right.
The argument is whether or not we're treated equal.
Treated equal.
Whether or not we're seen as equal between each other.
Right.
Not from the creator.
Right.
Like, it just makes no sense. So he starts to talk about his book and whatever, and he talks about, how he sees CRT. And some of it is, and again, it has the sprinkle of truth. So CRT, for those that don't know, critical race theory does come from
legal
theory.
Yeah, right.
But it is the opposite or antithesis to critical legal theory, right? So,
no, it's not the antithesis. It's the extension. It's from legal to practical.
Okay. In an attempt to spin, what it is. So, and I'm not saying
you're talking about what Ed Young did, or what?
No, what the two. Now again, not the extreme, because again, the stuff the outline that Ed Young put out are extreme views,
super extreme. Some of this stuff I never even heard of.
Nobody.
Who's saying this?
I say, who he get this from?
Who is the proponent? But see, this is the problem. Whenever you don't quote people,
right?
Okay,
right.
And this is where he displays his lack of credibility. So there was a book that was written. I cannot call the author, but it was in a class that I was taking on research and writing. It was called "They Say, I Say."
Okay.
And basically, that if you want to write a compelling argument, okay, that you first present the opposition,
right, and
clearly state what the opposition is stating,
right.
They say, but then you come with your commentary and your position. I say,
right.
Jesus used the same technique,
right.
You have heard it said, but I say unto you,
right.
Does that make sense? They say, I
don't
say.
Walk with him 1 mile,
right?
Walk with him 2,
right.
They say if somebody smites you on the right cheek, whatever. I say turn to him your left, right?
Correct. So this is biblical, okay? And so, but Ed Young does not use this model of they say, I say. And because Ed Young, what he's done in the last message and in this message, he is a master straw man builder.
Right. Absolutely. I'm going to give you the scariest figures you can possibly think of.
That you can't name.
But I'm not going to tell you
who they are.
These figures are not accurate.
Right. Oh, it figures in terms of the crime, the numbers. Rate. Yeah. So like alternative facts.
Right.
All day. Right. Yeah. Right. As far as and which we already kind of discussed that last week. But the mayor's office. Right. The mayor's office came out with it, and even with a simple Google search, didn't even have this pulled up. In a simple Google search on my iPad right here, we figured out, that was a lie.
Right.
Sorry.
Right.
You know, Ed. Right. But that's the thing is that, but when I say the straw man, is that Yeah, he builds scarecrows in terms of to try to scare you, but the straw man in terms of a straw man argument, which is a misrepresentation of someone's position. Because you could, because if there was a battle, right, you could fight me, or you could build a straw man that is not me that you say is me.
Right.
And when you come to attack the straw man, it's an easy win.
Right.
Because you've mischaracterized the person and the position, me.
Right.
And you don't have to deal with me. In the words of Bruce Lee, boards, don't hit back.
Right.
So that's what he's doing. He's trying to do the Jedi mind trick, and say, hey, these are not the droids you're looking for. This is what's really going on. And he might as well, instead of pointing to a PowerPoint, they might as well have dropped a straw man from the ceiling
and just
said, this is CRT.
Right. It was, he proved that his mindset, because I would rather, somebody who's ignorant, I can let that make it. I really can. But someone who's smart and tries to manipulate thought, that to me, there's like, and Ed Young is smart enough.
Yes.
To try to, and he's you could tell he's trying to manipulate. That's why I say he's a
master straw man builder.
Oh, man.
What he does, and oh, by the way, chapter and verse, very sparse.
Right. Oh, no.
Chapter and verse, very sparse. And again, he comes up here to talk. This is not even a sermon. I can't even call this a sermon.
I didn't leave any kind of, I left mad. But anyway, no one would have been enriched spiritually. Right? So he pulls Ben, and he basically, and Ben Carson's so slow. He's so slow. Ed Young basically walked him like a horse into what he wanted him to say.
Right.
That's why he called him up there.
Right.
I mean, he's a friend. He's been in my house. Who cares?
Who cares? He's been in the big house.
Yeah. Who cares? So he walks him into So
come on, guys.
So Ben Carson's thing now, he said one thing, and I'm going to tell you my interpretation of it. He said, CRT paints the victim mentality. Who do we want to see ourselves as victor or as victim, whatever. And then it paints a whole generation of people by what happened in the previous generation. And he said something that really, he really ticked me off. And I really want to say something else. Because he said, if America was so bad, why are there people still want to get here? Right?
Well, it's because it's the best available. Bro, that doesn't matter.
That means
that doesn't
what?
Matter. That doesn't mean that the ends don't justify the means.
Bro, homeless people want to go to shelters. That don't make shelters a good place to be.
Right.
That just means it's better than
where they
homeless.
are. Right, exactly. It's better than where they are. So I heard that.
Ben Carson.
Yeah, that was terrible.
And if somebody's watching this or listening to this, tell Ben Carson I say he trash. That was horrible, and it proved that he may
horrible,
be a good,
atrocious,
a good mind doctor, but he ain't got a good mind. Yeah. That's just whatever. But he basically he was saying CRT makes young white children feel guilty for being white. He started talking about they didn't call slavery, they didn't have slaves, whatever. Don't make them feel, us feeling like victims, make them feel like they victimize us, whatever.
Again, the feelings, full of feels. Look, what are the facts? The fact is that the average white person has a 400-year head start on the average black person, flat out.
Bro, he mentioned he went to school in Alabama. He mentioned Alabama. UT and Alabama just played. Bro, just 50 years ago. Just 50. We're 50. Or close enough. I'm close enough.
That's you, buddy.
I've been lying saying 29 so long. I'm close to 50. Just 50 years ago, no black student was allowed in Alabama. Yeah. Just imagine the head start that you have.
Yeah.
Like, so you can't tell me, because again, critical race theory takes, for me, it takes racism out of the hearts and minds of individuals, and you start looking at
institutions.
And so you can't tell me that you being allowed into certain educational institutions that we were not allowed in does not create an atmosphere today that has me doing ketchup. And ketchup ain't good for nothing but French fries. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So you can't tell me that my forefathers not being allowed to read and write is not playing an effect on who we are today.
Right.
You can't tell me that redlining and making me stay in certain areas is not playing. You can't tell me that keeping us out of certain job programs is like, all of that has everything to do with what critical race theory is.
Right.
Not.
But, and the thing is that critical race theory is just reading the plain reading of history.
Period.
People try to drum it up to be something. Let me go ahead and read, from Wikipedia. Critical race theory, CRT, is a cross-disciplinary examination by social and civil rights scholars and activists to explore how laws, social and political movements, and media shaped by social conceptions of race and ethnicity. Goals include challenging all mainstream and alternative views of racism, racial justice, including conservative, liberal, and progressive. The word critical in the name is an academic reference to critical thinking, critical theory, and scholarly criticism, rather than criticizing or blaming people.
Right. Of which his whole presentation Sunday was blaming critical race theory.
Don't blame me.
Right. Critical race theory is blaming us.
Right.
It is, at its very core, critical race theory is trying to keep history what it is.
Facts.
A clear depiction of the facts of history.
Just the facts, ma'am. Dragnet. Just the facts.
So when he went to that fake crying and quoting Martin Luther King, I almost broke my own TV.
Yeah.
Bro, okay. So he cited some of his own history. That he was called to a church in South Carolina that would not allow black people in. Bro, why do you think they called him to that church?
Exactly. Oh, and by the way, sidebar, how he also said that the way that his candidate sermon for that church and for Second Baptist was to stand up and quote John 3:16 and immediately proceed to sit down.
That was he said that was his trial. Oh, right.
This was his candidate sermon.
You know what? Sunday, he should have stood up, quoted John 3:16, and sat down.
Yeah.
Say, man.
So there's something about you. There's something about you that says that they wanted you to be their pastor. That there's something that says you align with us.
Like-minded.
So I wouldn't have gone down that road.
Say, man, folk can say what they want to. And again, I don't, look, it is what it is. And I have already, and I'm saying we had already, people in Houston, I believe, African-Americans in Houston, in the Christian arena, church circle, had already conceded the fact that Ed Young was who Ed Young is.
Yeah.
But he was quiet. This loud Ed Young, there's, somebody got to do something, man. Because now it's making second look a certain way. It's making second look like that church in South Carolina. You might as well put a board on the door. Look, on Sunday mornings, I come to church to hear a word from God. Not your ideas about what CRT is or isn't. Or to hear you take a sermon from Martin Luther King and take it out of context. Because the initial sermon that he quoted from what Martin Luther King did at SMU, he just used one line.
Right.
He completely took that line out of context. What Martin Luther King was saying in a spiritual vacuum,
right?
He was then trying to use in a social one. This is MLK.
Right.
He stood for social equality. Do you think he would have said something like that?
Yeah.
In a social vein?
Yeah.
You don't have to
be a scholar, right? This is disingenuous at best, where he misuses and abuses figures and quotations. But I mean, at the end of it, like you said, he's too smart to have done this on accident.
Yeah. No, this was purposeful.
This is purposeful.
This whole series.
And here's the thing is it's not that I agree with everything that people make CRT out to be.
Right.
When you start getting into intersectionality and all these different things, But
that's in everything too, though. This generation.
Right, yeah. They take Right. And so you give them an inch, they take them out,
Yeah.
So, but if you're going to put something like that up, again, they say, I say, and define who is they.
Right.
This group, this organization, this person, this institution says this.
Right. Right.
And oh, by the way, since we are in church at Sunday morning, you're a pastor, how about you call out a text of scripture
and say what he say
and exposit what's thus said the Lord.
Hey, look, here's my thing, because even if you're going to do this, because I don't think anyone would ever argue that Ben Carson is a CRT expert.
Correct.
Why would you show this clip of Ben Carson? I have no idea. So even if you're going to do this and you want it to be a genuine, authentic presentation of what should be our mindset in and around critical race theory, why not call Howard? I can't think of the guy's name. Great mind. The guy who's over there, the Black History Studies. I could see his face and can't call his name. Call Howard. Get him. Hey, can you come down for Sunday morning? We would love to have an open conversation. With you, whatever, and talk about it. Have a genuine conversation with it around it. But the fact that you would go get Ben Carson and then quote Martin Luther King says that your aim was to manipulate. And then the saddest part was at the end of this confusion, he quotes the I Have a Dream speech. And it's so funny, and I'm saying this and I'm getting off my soapbox. It's so funny. Nobody ever says anything about and I'm saying nobody. White America doesn't say anything about blacks being created equal when we're treated, unequal. It's only when you want us to see us as equal that you bring up that we're equal. Like he quoted something from, the country's foundation. Say, man, Ben Carson wrote a book about we're all created equal. You're quoting the foundation of the country. At the foundation of the country, black men were considered to be a portion of a man.
Right. 3/5. Right.
What about that is equal?
Right.
But again, it's the manipulation. And at the end, because he quoted, I have a dream, and he does this part of the speech that we all know. And it looks like, and then he does the fake crying. Now everybody in the sanctuary is standing up. I almost threw my own TV off the
wall. Michael Ralph, I think, is the guy you're talking about.
I think so.
He's the department chair of African American Studies.
Yeah.
At Howard University. Yeah.
Yeah. Great mind, whatever. Like, but again, man, it's just.
And there's a lot of people he could have called. I mean, he didn't have to go outside of Houston.
Right. But not being Carson.
But the thing is that then he would be, but then that would defeat the point of him being disingenuous and having a straw man. Pay no attention to the man behind the curtain. You see what I'm saying? He doesn't want you. He doesn't want dialogue. He wants to go out and do his monologue. Dialogue means that somebody else might expose him for who he is and actually clearly state a position that's clear, concrete, and concise and compelling.
When he walked up there with his Bible and put his Bible on that table, I say, yeah, we in for it. Because that means he's not going to say anything from the Holy Scripture.
Yeah.
This is going to be, not only
he was up there playing a game of hermeneutical and homiletical hopscotch.
Right. Right.
Just bouncing around wherever he wants to go.
Right.
Not landing on anything, out of context. I mean, I'm just thoroughly disappointed just from the craft of preaching.
I wouldn't even qualify that as preaching.
Well, I mean, I don't either. Like I said before, I don't call this a sermon, but if we are, right. We don't do shout outs, right. But if we did, you know, and so, because this to me doesn't even get on the rubric of a sermon.
Yeah.
This was a political speech.
Yeah.
And you know, you're mischaracterizing the opposite position.
Right.
And to me, it does not advance your position when you do that.
No.
All you do is create a giant opportunity for someone, like basically like we're doing now, to poke a giant hole and destroy your argument lovingly. You know.
And so here's another thought. Mm-hmm. And I'm saying, so if this is Ed Young's mindset, who is the visionary mm-hmm. for Second Baptist. Mm-hmm. You know, Second Baptist has its own educational system. Mm-hmm. Right. I'm talking about kindergarten through 12. Mm-hmm. What are they teaching those kids?
Exactly what he's teaching the church. You think the executive director doesn't listen to his pastor's sermons? And this is one thing that they said, that, you know, well, people aren't born racist. And I agree. They're trained.
Right.
It's nurture.
Right.
It's not nature.
Right. Right.
But what he does not address at all is the nurture argument that, hey, if you're a racist and you have children and teach them to be racist, they grow up to be racist.
Right. Right.
Amazing how that works.
Right. Right.
And so you keep beating this drum, but hey, it's like we're all in agreement that we're all created equal. But as you previously stated, the problem is that now that we've been created, we're born, we're walking around God's green earth, because you have the upper hand, you treat us differently.
Right.
And you continue to do so until it gets to the point where it's like, oh, hold on, we got to ease up a little bit. They're getting a little upset. Hey, we're all equal. We're all brothers. We're all sisters.
And that's what it is.
You see what I'm saying?
Right.
To keep you at bay. Does that make sense? And satisfy, and then, let me go back. Right. I got to wash my sheets.
Right.
So,
right.
You know, that's the thing, is that we have a situation where he's being disingenuous at best. And, you know, I pray that people will see that, hey, this is error. I mean, it just flat out is.
I would challenge.
And that he would repent and preach the gospel of Jesus Christ and not the gospel according to Donald Trump or Greg Abbott or any other of the GOP.
Right.
You know, because
I would suggest that any of my, because again, second is so very, it's a mixed bag. I would suggest any of my brothers and sisters, you know, melanated, you know, brothers and sisters that are members of Second, mm-hmm. that consistently go, if you don't leave,
speak up.
At least say something.
When you see something, say something. That's what we've been taught, you know. When you see something, say something. Because as long as he goes unchallenged and unopposed that this is okay, because he's going to have plenty of other, you know, pastors and pulpiteers that are going to pat him on the back and say, great job, Ed. I wouldn't have done it.
Right.
Great job, buddy.
Right.
Great job. I'm with you. I'm never going there.
Right.
You see what I'm saying? So he's going to get plenty of affirmation.
Right.
Does that make sense?
Right.
From those that are closely aligned in terms of the community.
Right.
But, I mean, hey, we're calling it out, marking a void. Hey.
Right.
You know, this is a problem.
Right.
This is problematic to hold this type of view. And, you know, I felt like there was a way that he could address CRT and be like, look, people have taken the core of CRT and ran with it to support these other things, and I would have been with them.
Right.
Because there's certainly some things that it's like, hey.
But see, he mentioned.
That are problematic.
He mentioned one, and again, he mentioned it for a reason. and the same thing that Ben Carson mentioned in the video that he played before, that all white people are inherently, responsible by race for whatever. And look, that's debatable, but that's not the core.
That's not the issue
of where.
Just recognize. Look, I think most people would be like, look, just recognize that you had a head start,
right,
and take into account that other groups didn't, and that explains why things are the way they are. And then now understanding why we are the way we are and how we got to where we are.
Right.
How do we move forward in a more equitable fashion?
And here's what he said. And again, the whole thing, you got to watch it. And we might do another. We might tag it at the bottom. Yeah. Racism was, slavery was wrong. No doubt about it. But you don't think 400 years of wrong and oppression has nothing to do with where we are today? And he went on to talk about how bad because again, he can't say it's good.
Right. Can't say it's good. So, I mean, and he says my deal is he says he's a history major.
That's why I know it's a manipulation.
And I'm like, your grasp of history is, I use my acronym HAT: horrible, atrocious, and terrible.
Yeah, right.
I'm like, come on, man.
Or maybe he knows it, and it's just manipulation. It's just manipulation.
No, he's manipulating. That's mass manipulation.
Hey,
of the congregation. Because I personally feel like, and I could be wrong, but it just seems to be with the election around the corner. He is taking this turn in order to mobilize and energize his party of choice. Right. Because he's like, man, we lost again. We can't lose anymore. Right. And, there's a Republican candidate that's having a decent showing for Harris County judge.
Who just happens
to
be a member of his church.
Wow. What a coincidence.
Bro. And then.
So to me, facts, evidence, data, statistics, these are things that I love.
Right.
Because it's incontrovertible.
Yeah.
It's like, look, man, your bias is hanging. You remember in Ray, they caught you with your slip hanging?
Yeah, your slip showing.
Yeah, your slip showing. Yeah. Your racism is showing.
Hey, look.
Your partisanship is showing.
Let's just say.
Your self-interest is showing.
Let's just say I believe his numbers from the first thing. So if crime is that high in your city.
Why you live here?
You're telling me, that's one thing. Move, please. Go back to South Carolina. But anyway, you're telling me that Jesus isn't the answer?
Right.
The lack of Jesus in the community, the light of the world, is not the answer.
Great point.
The answer is we need to defeat the woke generation.
Right. Throw the bums out of office.
Bro,
the legally, properly elected representatives of the city and the county, throw the bums out. That's a direct quote from Dr. Homer Edwin Young.
Homer.
You know him as Ed Young of the Win and Walk and of the Second Baptist Church, but I'm just telling you. But yeah, it's he's showing more Homer, like Homer Simpson, than the Dr. Ed Young that we have known.
Maybe that further pushes so you're telling me someone who was born in Mississippi, went to school in Alabama, pastored in South Carolina and Texas, who's over 80, whose first name is Homer, is not racist?
And just has this delicate grasp of social issues, from all his...
Man, please. Okay, so, and we can go, we're gone. I don't want to hear nothing about CRT from Ed Young or anybody else who's over 80 who's white. Okay, so I'm still for you. Does it make sense?
Does it make sense? Does it make sense?
Bro.
No, I get it. They're the ones that need to be listening. Not talking.
And that's my point.
You had the mic.
Way too long.
I don't agree, but whenever Kanye ran up there and grabbed that mic from Taylor Swift, hey, I'm the captain now. Okay. hear ye me. and so, yeah, man. I mean, it's like, hey, but you had the mic for a long time.
So
Step
now
aside.
I'm going to, even if we're talking about feelings.
You need to listen. And, and the thing is that you can tell he hasn't listened
at all
to not one person that has an opposing view. Here's the thing. You can't properly defend your position until you understand the opposition.
Right.
And so if you don't take time to understand the opposition and you can clearly state the position of your opponent to them and they say, yes, you have a correct interpretation of what I just said, until you reach that point, you can't effectively defend your position.
You can't. And on top of that, I can't tell you how to feel about what was done to you.
Right.
So if I get up over there right now and slap you and be like, oh, Shawn, I'm sorry. I can't tell you not to be mad.
Right.
Like, I can't tell you how to. So you admitted 400 plus years of slavery was wrong. It was an injustice and people died.
But that's where they stop. It's wrong, but it wasn't my fault. I was wrong, but I benefited from it. And I don't want to give up any of the blessings and the benefits.
And you see how he skirted the economic drive behind slavery.
Oh, Tokyo Drift, buddy. I mean,
it makes no sense.
And that's what I'm saying. I mean, it's about the money. Follow the money. Follow the rich male descendant of the Caucasus Mountains. I'm just telling you, if you just follow it.
You're not going to say it. I'll say it.
Right.
The rich white guy.
The rich white guy.
The rich white guy.
The Carter School of Criminology from Rush Hour.
Yeah, right. I don't get it. It's frustrating. It makes our city look bad. It makes Second look bad.
Yep.
And I would strongly suggest, and again, I don't have anything to do with Second. They can do whatever they want to. It don't mean nothing to me. I don't even look to Second for ministry ideas. I really don't. It means nothing. They can do what they want to. But if we can set down a pastor for exchanging jokes in a DM.
Exactly.
If we can ask a pastor to set aside for consistently sharing memes in a DM, surely this is worthy of asking hey, look, because here's what I think, and that's why I say I created a lot of this to be old. Maybe life and culture is just beyond his mind at this point. I just really believe he's just too old to gather his mind around where we are and intend to go.
Yeah.
He's just like those days, again, when South Carolina, the state flag was the Confederate flag, wasn't it? Man,
they just tore down a bunch of monuments, all this everything. Yeah, but I mean,
you know what it is. We know what it is.
Exactly.
We know. And then he said something about the Klan too. Talking about the Klan is almost extinct. Well, maybe your chapter.
Right? I denounced the KKK. I'm no longer a member.
Yeah. Maybe your chapter. Man, all right, look.
But yeah. But the thing is that all it is they just went underground for a little while and changed the name. Now you got Proud Boys. Now you got, this, that, the third.
And he's smart enough. He said he's a history major. He's smart
talking about
enough
the KKK
to know
right
that.
Right. You know that.
They just tore up the Capitol. He's and he said it so matter-of-factly. Like that whole... Please go watch it. So I don't think I'm crazy.
Right.
Please go watch it.
I've seen it. But for the viewers,
please go watch it.
For our online audience.
Oh man, and the Klan is almost extinct. Thank God. I'm like, is he for real? He got to be joking.
He may not be a grand wizard, but maybe he's a grand lizard. Or something. Yeah. But here's the thing, though, is that I say that jokingly, but it's like the things that you do direct us to this viewpoint, because who else would say and do things like this? Someone that's trying to protect that position. The greatest trick that the devil ever pulled was that he didn't exist. So whenever, somebody stands up, no white supremacy, the KKK, I'm going to specifically pick out the KKK. I'm not going to say white supremacists or white nationalists, which is what you should have said, and denounce them, but you didn't.
But you can't say white supremacy or white nationalists are almost extinct because we know
that
and January they just gave that greatest showing ever.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
So you can't say that.
That was the musical.
But so you highlight the Klan.
The Klan.
They haven't called themselves the Klan. You know that. You was at the last meeting. You know we don't go by that no more. I don't get it. I just don't get it.
But again, that's a trick that is one of the oldest tricks in the book.
Oh,
Let me make you think that this doesn't exist, and I'll go underground and I'll come back up. Same people, same views, same teachings, different name. And then when that one gets in trouble, oh, well, it's not the KKK, it's the alt-right. Oh, it's not the alt-right, it's Proud Boys. Right. Oh, it's not the Proud Boys, it's Oath Keepers. Oh, whatever it is. Right. But all it is like, and it kind of reminds me of, in the Marvel movies, you had the Hydra group,
Right.
It's like you got the same snake, but just different heads.
Yeah, right.
And you cut one off, another one grows right in its place.
Right. And before that one, before you even cut that head, there's another one underground.
There's another one
that's coming up.
That's ready.
As soon as you do it, it's one popping up. And again, and if he knows history, he knows enough to know that.
Right.
Why would you highlight the Klan? See, that further proves if I stand up Sunday morning and I give the rhetoric of a Black Panther, people have the right to leave and say, hey, look, maybe Pastor is a Black Panther. When you stand up on Sunday, you give the rhetoric of a white supremacist, I have the right to leave to say, hey, look, maybe. Just maybe.
You may have heard it said, it was said unto me this way: if it looks like a duck, walks like a duck, and quacks like a duck, odds are it's a duck.
Man, look, I'm saying this and we're signing off. Anybody's watching that know, like, before he tarnishes a decent legacy, please somebody go sit him down.
Yeah.
And or something. Please, because at this rate,
or bring him a history book, do something,
or something,
help him out.
Because at this rate, if he continues in this path, especially in this series that is going absolutely nowhere, if he continues in this path, he will become a joke. Second will become a joke, and everything Second has built to this point will become a joke.
And then what'll happen is that Second will be held up as a monument of why you shouldn't go to church. Because this is what they do over there.
It's almost.
And so now you're playing into the hands of your opposition. Because while you're worried about CRT and African Americans over here, you have the secular humanists and the atheists and these people that are against the kingdom of God, and you're not worried about them.
No.
You see what I'm saying? No. And instead of upholding kingdom values, promoting the kingdom agenda,
right,
you're over here dealing with this petty political stuff.
You're promoting GOP
instead of GOD.
Man, I don't know. In Houston, we got some issues to deal with, and that is
Houston. We have a problem.
Yeah, Houston, we definitely have a problem. That's on top of the list for me. And again, it's almost like watching Superman get beat up. Somebody who's done so much, now is succumbing to his own, idea. So, again,
remember, accountability is kryptonite to American society.
Hey, and it's
in the Superman movie, that was his only weakness.
And that's what it's showing. That's what it's showing. That's what it's showing. Again, thank you for joining us on another episode of the TBT Show. Listen, subscribe on YouTube, Apple Podcasts, follow us on all our social media platforms.
Comment. We want to hear from you.
Absolutely.
We want to hear your thoughts.
And if you have some suggestions about some things that we need to address, whether it is local or national, please let us know. And that'll give us all the help in the world. Shawn, is there anything going on this week that you want to shout out before we get out of here?
Man, I can't think of anything at the moment. For the rest of the month, it evades me. But yeah.
Okay. I can't think of anything either, other than just, our kids are, are hard at school and hard at play. And matter of fact, I went to a football game this past week, and then heard about another game that I didn't get to make, but wanted to see North Shore and Westfield. And they said North Shore is looking like the North Shore old, so we'll be following North Shore. Those North Shore parents and players, we're praying for you and supporting you. Hopefully you get back to that place of state to represent us again. So again, let's pray for all of our children, cover all our children in prayer, those that are participating in athletics. There's nothing else. Listen, watch over each other, pray for each other. Again, all we have is each other. And until we see you guys next week, grace and peace.